after we really can't do anything tonight because we don't have a quorum. Well, I'll just turn it over to Mr. Beller and he can further educate us a little more on his findings and what we need to do or what he thinks we should do or whatever.
Good evening, everyone. Try to respect everyone's time. I know the weather's been pretty rough on us today. The last time we had made a discussion with regard to it's section 4.06 and it's specifically F under your charter. And just reading that, it's deals with the public works department. Some of the language in there is a little bit vague. Probably needs to be a little bit more clear as to the responsibilities, roles, and there's been some confusion a little bit about how the flow of that the administration of that particular charter provision has been applied in times past. And so we had started looking at other communities, other counties, other city governments that would utilize the public works department and the way they set it up. And we looked at more counties probably more closely than anyone because it was more parallel to what we did. And I modified it a little bit. And what it is, the handout that I presented to you or handed to you earlier is what I had developed that I thought might clean up the language a little bit, and we can take a look at it and I explain the reasoning why in each and every line. Under F, this would be for a replacement of the entirety of 4.06. It would delete what we have currently, and this would be the replacement of that language, which you can see makes very clear that the public works department shall be administered by the mayor or such persons as the mayor may appoint, subject to the confirmation by the commission. Very clearly, it lines out the mayor's chief administrator over all the public works department. But something that's not been clearly lined out in your current charter is the divisions within the public works department. We want to separate those into divisions, and I'll explain why in a little bit, and I'll let the mayor speak on that. I'll turn it over to him. He's probably got a lot more to say about than I do. The divisions within the public work, and it goes through what it shall include. Most of those are a lot of what you already have, and other divisions established by the county commission as necessary to operations of the public works department. And of course, one provision I think is necessary is the divisions within the public works department may be merged or separated by the mayor, which from time to time, and there's been some discussions earlier that you're going to have, as you grow, you're going to have larger departments, and some are going to have more specialized needs. So that's the reason for the separation. And then some things simply just become obsolete. And as they become obsolete, they can be subsumed into other departments. You want to have that authority given to your mayor to do that, and particularly since would be the chief administrator over the public works department. And so it's fairly simplistic from that standpoint. Now, that is something that I would recommend. The language that would need to be set forth for referendum. I understand this body can't approve that tonight, but it is here for discussion. First of all, is there any questions before I go into the next topic? Is there any questions with regard to what you've seen in front of you? I know you just handed to it tonight, and I apologize for not getting an email, but apparently the email I sent earlier this week did not go out on Monday like I thought it did. So does anyone have any questions at all? Comments or anything? One of the things that we have too is we have an organizational flow chart. Now, from my understanding, and Mayor can historically tell me a lot better than I could on this, but I believe this was sometime around the year 2001 that this was set up. And Mayor has I think provided a copy of this to everyone. This is something that is going to have to be considered at some point. Now, it's not going to be considered by this body, but it's one of the reasons that we're doing some of the things we're doing is that some of these these flow chart is not accurate, and it's going to have to be changed. And so the county commission is going to have to take a look at this, and Mayor and I are going to have to get together and propose something that would accurately reflect what Hartsville-Trousdale County is doing right now. Of course, I don't even think the building inspector is even on this. So that's something that would need to be added. Of course, it would have to clearly delineate your public works department as how that would work. So, Mayor, with that being said, I'll turn it over to you in that area.
Thank you, Mr. Beller. Yes, this organizational chart, I found it. It was in the minutes for the December 27th and 28th, 2000 meeting, where the county commission got together, passed all the things they needed to do to organize the metropolitan government for January 1st, 2001. As Mr. Beller said, there's some things on here that are not accurate, and some positions that are not even on here. Veteran Services is not on here, and some other parts are not on here. So we need to update that to reflect those positions. And also, as he was talking about growing as far as the public works and separating off all those, some of those into divisions. Well, when I came into office, the practice had been that the building official was appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the county commission. But if you read the charter, it seems to be that the public works director could have hired that person. But, and speaking to Mr. Beller, the way the charter was written, where it says the mayor shall appoint persons, it indicated that the mayor could appoint individual people to do those positions. And then that would effectively create one directly under the mayor. So that's what this language is, to clean that up. And further, for give an example, it says that the public works department has sanitation and garbage collection. I'm sorry about the monitor or what's going on there. I don't know. But, you know, we had 7,870 people in the 2010 census. This last census, when you take out the prison population, we had about 9,110 or so. Before the pandemic, the last projection numbers I were given, we were expected to grow another 7.8% by 2025. Our convenience center, if you've been up there, it's getting crowded. It's not going to be able to handle that. In the future, probably sometime within the next couple of years, I can see the necessity of creating a standalone solid waste department. And one of the things we didn't know about till we did a solid waste audit is that there is a requirement that one person in the solid waste spends 55% of their time dealing with solid waste. So we're going to have to meet that requirement. Plus, there's a lot of different environmental requirements coming down the pike. I was telling Mr. Beller and Mr. Clarity before the meeting, you know, when we take our trash to Smith County, they are getting a lot more scrutiny put under them as well as far as environmental. We've had a couple of trucks that they've turned back because some of the waste in the truck did not meet the requirements to be landfilled. So the truck had to come back and get that separated out. So, and one of the reasons they're going to really be watching Smith County landfill now is because Middle Point down in Rutherford County is near capacity. So once Middle Point closes down, you're really going to see a lot of counties and communities and cities bringing their trash to the Smith County landfill because it is the only one in this area. So they're really cracking down on that. And that's something we're trying to do in our solid waste department, try to come up with ways to, right now they're telling you reduce, reuse, recycle. That's really what they're pushing. So we're trying to find ways to start reducing the amount of waste we're sending to the landfill. So I can see other programs that's coming into place, and it's going to require somebody who has a more specialized knowledge of solid waste and recycling than we currently have. And I just see that, you know, we're growing exponentially. Give an example. We just talked about the documents over here from the Planning Commission this past Monday. And at this past Monday, they approved about 140 plus new residential units in that one meeting. One subdivision had 118 townhomes, I believe it is. Just one subdivision. And we're starting to hear questions coming in about uses for other parts of the county, that large tracts of land to be developed. So it's coming. You've seen it in Gallatin, you've seen it in Hendersonville, it's pushing this way. So we're really going to have to look at that. And if we could separate some of these departments out, that's really going to help the efficiency of the county going forward as we grow. So I can answer any questions on that from my point of view, looking at it from what I'm seeing on the day-to-day basis. But as Mr. Beller said, it would just clear up some of the confusion in the language, make it a little bit more clear to people and about how it's going to function going forward.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Beller or the mayor, either one? I have one question, Mr. Mayor, on your flow chart, it's got Metro Auditor. We don't have one just for that purpose, or do we use someone else's?
We contract with the comptroller's office and they provide our auditing services.
So does this charter need to be revised on that? Or?
Looking at it, I would think so, right off the top of my head. Now, I could be wrong. I haven't went back and looked at that specific position. I don't know that it's specifically provided for in the charter. I think this was just something that was organizationally done kind of along with it. Is it in there?
Yeah.
Okay. But from what we've been doing, we contract out with the comptroller's office. Most smaller communities do that. Industrial development boards and some other ones, they do it themselves. They contract out with a private one, but most local governments, especially our size, just contract with the comptroller's office and they provide those services.
I did. Okay. All right. Just a little history about this metropolitan auditor thing. As you know, we were not a combined government when this thing was put together. The county always used the comptroller's office, but the town of Hartsville hired their own auditors. And so this option for a metro auditor left it open that if it was deemed to be the right thing to do or the best thing to do, then we had a provision in the charter to do it. And, you know, there are some of these that, like you have I don't even see another one right now, but there are the what ifs, you know, that you needed. So that's just a little history of why that's in there. Just to going forward, since you're going to do another organizational chart, that's just a FYI.
Well, I would think probably in that one, you could just maybe put like Metro Auditor parentheses or contract service or something like that.
Well, when it's in section 409 of the charter, if anybody wants to look at it, it explains out how it's supposed to work and all of that. But it is in the charter to provide for a metro auditor. So we may want to go back a little later or sometime and look over that and maybe, like you said, change a wording on it so it'll better fit.
Mr. Chairman, on that particular provision, one of the things that the advantage in having that from time to time, it is possible that we would need to have someone as an auditor other than the usage of the comptroller's office. I had looked at that and I agree with your assessment of it, that that's exactly my reading of it, is that if you ever needed it, you've got it. It goes ahead and authorizes the mayor to do that with approval of the county commission.
Any other questions, discussions?
I do have one other question about the reorganization, and I agree with you that things need to be better defined as to who has authorities. And looking at, you see the county commission as the head of this organizational chart, but you don't see the branches that they have organizations, you know, control of. And the bottom line of all of these, you're looking at the ID board, health facility, these are independent boards that don't function under necessarily the control of the commission, but the commission appoints at the recommendation of those people that are on the boards. So did you plan to put them under the county commission?
No, what I've seen in other places, they had different flow charts. Like they would have one for the executive branch saying, here's your mayor, whatever, and then it would flow down to the departments. And then it would have a separate one for your legislative showing how it flowed down. But they also had kind of one that covered, like you said, independent boards. Like the Industrial Development Board under the law is technically a separate municipality. We appoint them, but then they serve a set term of office and they handle the Industrial Development Board. So I've seen them where they really covered out and said, okay, this is what your executive branch is, how it flows, flow chart wise. Here's how your county commission, and it would have like your commission or committees or whatever and what's under your commission, and then separate boards and everything and some information on those. So I could see maybe cutting this up and having a different flow chart style to really clarify that. Because this, it looks like everything commission, executive, and then technically it looked like the executive is over all these other boards, but they're not. I serve on all boards and commissions unless otherwise provided by state law. For example, I can't serve on the Industrial Development Board. Elected officials are prohibited from serving on that. So, but that would be something I would look at. And I think it's something Mr. Brenner and I talked about, is changing the organizational chart to update it to what it currently is now, and then clearing out some of that confusion.
I have another question and another comment about this bottom line that we're talking about. Technically, do any of the actions of these boards, they don't bring any of this back to the county commission, do they? I mean, the Health Facility Board, Housing Authority, they do their own thing, more or less. So how do they fit in this flow chart then?
Okay. The planning commission does, for your rezonings and whatnot, that comes from the planning commission with a recommendation to the county commission. Your industrial development board, they're actually working on a payment in lieu of tax program right now, which has to come through the budget committee and then the county commission to be approved. So there are each individual little things that they'll do that come up here, save for some of them. Most of them kind of operate independently. Library board, really, once their budget is set, they work just like everybody else as far as purchasing. If they need a budget amendment, then that comes to the county commission, but that's through budgeting, not necessarily how they operate, because they have I think they actually operate under the regional library system, and then they have their own requirements, like they can't be paid and these things like that. So they have a lot of statutory provisions that set out how they operate. So there's a few of them that do, but for the most part, other than looking at it, Industrial Development Board in the past hasn't anything, just that one payment in lieu of tax program that could come now. Housing Authority, really just budget request or something like that, or maybe working with a grant or something. And Board of Zoning Appeals and your Planning Commission dealing with some of those issues. But as far as regular items they bring to the county commission, other than rezonings or something like that from the Planning Commission, the other ones don't really typically have anything comes before the commission.
On these boards, whoever's appointed becomes before the commission to approve or deny. That's about all that the county commission has to do with it. Any more questions, comments, or anything? Mr. Beller, you have anything else to add, or?
No, sir, I don't. I'm open for questions, but I've tried to make it as simple as possible. I hope I have.
Okay, well, on these proposed changes, to get it before a referendum, we have to have 3 readings. And there's no way now to get it in the August election. I think it has to be turned in by, what, the end of April?
I think it's near the beginning of April,
Okay.
I think.
So there's no way we can do it. We might be able to do it and get it on the November election. There's no way to get it now on August elections. Mr. Beller, you have a date that you would like to meet again, or you want to wait and make a decision on that?
My thought would be just circulate some dates amongst the entire, commission, and just see how many people can attend at our next meeting. Typically Thursday nights are pretty good for me. I hope that's good for everybody else, and I can make some Mondays and Tuesdays as well. So
We'll let you set the date that's best for you, and then we'll send it out to everybody and see what kind of response we get. Does
Yes,
that work for y'all? Okay, we'll do it that way then. You look at your calendar in the next few days and just get back with us, and we'll set a date for maybe sometime in March.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.